Hi, I'm Stephanie Strange. Want to hear something scary?
Hello there, I hope you're excited as I am now that we have new videos on the first Tuesday of every month. And we're hoping that we can bring back the weekly videos very, very soon. In addition, I'll be doing email submissions from you guys and making videos out of them on the second week of the month. And I'll be doing monthly live streams again on the last week of every month. When there's not a new video, we'll be doing compilations from our incredible archive of the scariest stories from around the world, so we hope you enjoy.
Millie Emsworth was the darling of Broadway at the Nightingale Theater. She was performing her favorite role, Lady Macbeth. One night, just before showtime, she went into her dressing room and her heart dropped. Standing there was Obadiah Knox. She knew who he was, but she didn't know how he had gotten in. He was a tabloid journalist, and she'd been denying him an interview for ages. She decided to appease him so he would finally leave her alone. She told him she didn't talk about her personal life or do photographs. She would discuss the stage, but everything else was off the table. However, he kept asking her questions that were unrelated to her career. It became clear that this went beyond journalism. He was obsessed with her. Thankfully, Millie's manager Rex came to her dressing room, intervened, and called security. After the performance, Millie was waiting outside for her closest friend and biggest fan, Giselle, to pick her up. That's when Knox appeared again. She texted Giselle to hurry up. Knox crept in closer, telling her that he wanted to take her out for a drink. "No, you're not my type," Millie responded plainly. Knox continued to press his advances anyway. Finally, Giselle pulled up at the stage door. Millie shouted a no as she slid into the car. Both women jumped as Knox pounded against the window. Giselle sped away, and from then on, Knox was banned from the Nightingale Theater. For a while, he still tried to worm his way past security every show, but to no avail. One night, Millie arrived early to prep in her dressing room, only to find an envelope taped to the door. He had gotten in somehow. She called Rex. She didn't want to call the police, that would just mean press, and she was adamant that any coverage be only about her talent. Just then, she received a text from Giselle. "Come to my place. Now. No cops." Millie had a bad feeling. Why didn't Giselle call? This felt so cryptic. Rex handed her the envelope from her door. It contained a single old photo. She stared at it, shocked, then left without saying a word. When Millie arrived at Giselle's apartment, the door was partway open. She rushed in to see her friend tied to a chair, bloodied. On the table, there were antique playbills, old photographs like the one that had been in the envelope, and yellowed newspaper clippings, all about a woman named Millicent Emsworth. They went as far back as the 19th century. Knox appeared. "Ever since our first meeting, I've been doing my homework. You've played many women, Amelia, Millicent, and now Millie. Tell me the truth. How is this possible?" He then ordered her to come with him, and he pulled out a knife. Laughing, she asked, "Or what? You're going to kill me?" It caught him off guard how strangely calm she was. Still behaving as though he was beneath her, he thought to himself. So he moved toward Giselle. He would kill her instead. Before he could even react, his hand was crushed in a vice-like grip. His knife dropped. Somehow, Millie had closed the distance between them with supernatural speed. She now stood over him as he fell to his knees, racked with pain from his hand and arm. She opened her mouth, revealing a maw full of fangs. She hissed,
For all your research, you still don't believe what I am?
Knox whimpered and begged for his life, but he had sealed his fate when he threatened her friend. Millie wouldn't enjoy killing him, though.
I prefer only the finest vintages. Like I said, you're not my type.
She sank her fangs into his neck. Panicked, he fought back, but his strength seeped away, and within minutes, his body was drained of blood. Millie then untied Giselle, using a cloth to stop her bleeding. She couldn't afford to lose her biggest fan and most willing blood donor. Her blood type was rare enough, but to also have her devotion, that only happened once every few decades. It was tempting to sample some of Giselle's delicious blood so she could wash away Knox's flavor, but not tonight. Her friend had already lost too much blood. Shaken up, Giselle wondered out loud what they would do as she pointed out the bite marks on Knox's neck. Taking out her phone, Millie called Rex. He would take care of it. After all, what else is a vampire's servant for? Rex asked Millie if she wanted tonight's show to be canceled. Millie smiled. Of course not, darling. The show must go on.
In the mountains of Serbia in the 1700s lived a man in a watermill. His name was Sava Savanovic. He was a gaunt, pale, hermit-like man, rarely seen in the daytime. Villagers would come to get flour from the mill, but never stayed long, as rumor had it that those who visited the mill never returned. One morning, a customer entered the mill to find Sava dead, with 2 unusual bloody spots on his neck. When the villagers moved his body, a yellow butterfly crawled out his mouth and flew away. The authorities investigated the scene, but the culprit was never found. After Sava was buried, the watermill was abandoned. The villagers said it was cursed. Many years passed, and a poor young man named Strahinia fell in love with Radoika, the daughter of a wealthy landowner named Sivan. Sivan forbade Radoika to marry Strahinia because he could not trust that this penniless young man could support his daughter. But Strahinia was determined to prove himself to Sivan. If he could get the local abandoned mill up and running again, he too could become a wealthy man. "My dear," Radoika begged, "I know that you're trying to win my father over, but that mill is dangerous. It isn't worth it." Strahinia looked deep into her eyes. "You are worth it." So Strahinia reopened the abandoned mill. Business was slow at first, but the villagers, desperate for a way to make bread, started trickling in to buy grain. Little by little, his business grew, as did Strahinia's confidence. But even so, he was still fearful of the old legends of the place, so he slept in a small windowless room that he padlocked each night, his gun always within reach. Every night, the inside of the mill would rattle as if someone was rummaging around. He was terrified. As soon as he was married, he would abandon the mill, he thought. Strahinia continued working while secretly planning his marriage. But each night, the rattling returned, growing closer to his door. Until one night, the door itself was rattling. On the eve of their wedding, the pounding was so hard, the door flung open, and a tall, gaunt man looked down at Strahinia, who took aim with his gun. "Who are you?" demanded Strahinia. The man smiled.
"Who are you? You are trespassing in my home."
Strahinia couldn't believe it. It was Sava. The man leapt on top of him, and he fired at his chest. Sava screeched an unholy noise and flew up to the rafters out of the mill. Worried villagers arrived as Strahinia exited in a panic. Sava was here!" An elder led Strahinia to a graveyard. There lay the old tombstone of Sava Savanovic, but the earth above his grave was loose. Strahinia dug up the dirt, revealing the coffin. They pried it open, and there, in the moonlight, with a fresh bullet wound through his chest, How do we kill an undying man? The villagers murmured. We hold him here forever, Strahinia replied as he took a metal spike from his overcoat and hammered it down through the corpse's chest. Sava's eyes flew open, his mouth agape. The villagers reeled back as a yellow butterfly slowly climbed out of Sava's mouth and took off into the night sky. Strahinia returned to his dear Radoka's home to share the good news. As he opened her bedroom door, he noticed her window was left open. In flew the yellow butterfly. It landed on her sleeping lips and climbed its way inside her mouth. Strahinia ran to get the butterfly out, but it was too late. Radoka's eyes fluttered open. Her warm smile turned to a devilish grin, revealing two sharp teeth in the pale moonlight. She sank her fangs into Strahinia's neck. And now, they would finally be together.
My name is Ryan Gardner, and I am the monster you're scared of in the dead of night. But I'm trying so hard to be better. It's difficult when the world is against you, hunting you, with no one in your corner. My train rumbled on to its destination, bringing me closer to, hopefully, a cure for what I have. Alone in my private car, I watched, transfixed and shaking, as the full moon's light flooded my space. My sweaty hands clutched my potion bottle. The liquid inside would hold off my change for now, but soon. There was a rap on my door, and it swung open. "Apologies, sir. An additional ticket check." The train attendant smiled thinly at me. "There seems to be an individual on board without proper passage." Staring at me, he barely looked at my ticket after I handed it over. A long pause, then, "Thank you, sir." He handed it back and left. Alone again, I exhaled. It was foolish to travel tonight of all nights. So many of my kind had been slaughtered by hunters, but I was being hunted yet again, so I had to flee. Luckily, I've got just enough medicine to last until I arrive in safer territory. Reaching again for the bottle, my trembling hand knocked it to the ground. I watched as the cork ripped out and it bounced out of the door left open by the attendant, spilling the precious liquid everywhere. No! If I change here, everyone on this train will be in danger. Scrambling outside for the bottle, I watched as a raven-haired woman picked it up from the corridor and smiled warmly at me. "I think you dropped something," she sniffed it. "It spilled, but you didn't lose it all," she said, handing me back the bottle. Taking it and pocketing it close to my chest, I thanked her. This angel. "I'm Eva," the woman offered and strode past me into my car and sat across from me. The scent of her blood was intoxicating. I must stay in control. Quickly, I shook her hand and introduced myself. I apologized and informed her that I'd paid extra for a private car. Her hand lingered in mine, cool to the touch. "The train has been oversold and is packed. May I stay for a while?" Reluctantly, I agreed. The nail beds of my hands felt hot, aching to extend into claws. Flushed, I swigged what was left of my potion. "Medicine for my anxiety," I said. I shut the blinds to keep the sweet, sweet allure of the moon's call from my sight, and Eva smiled reassuringly into my eyes. "I'm anxious too when I travel, but better together than alone." Eva was traveling for business. She was a great talker, which I love because I'm a good listener. She has the greatest laugh. The time passed and I felt almost normal again. I wondered if she would be as wonderful if she knew the monster that I truly am. The train attendant came back for dinner orders. My order was steak, blue rare, which is as bloody as it could be made. The beast inside keened for fresh meat, so it'd either have to be that or my gaze latched onto the attendant as he chatted with Eva. My vision sharpened and focused on his neck as I felt my canines begin to protrude. The wolf inside howled gleefully, targeting him as my back started to hunch and attack. "Vegetable soup and salad," Eva said loudly. "I don't have the heart to eat innocent animals," she laughed. With horror, I clamped my suddenly hairy hand over my mouth. I refuse to be the monster those hunters think I am. I'm a carnivore, I blurted out, but I could try to eat something else. She interrupted, insisting she didn't mind at all. The attendant looked at me strangely and left quickly. Had they seen me begin to change? After the door shut, alone once again, Eva gasped, "Ryan, your teeth!" As she stood up, I felt the bottom drop out of my stomach. I'd been caught. She was going to run and scream. I am the monster that should always be alone. Wearily, I looked away from her and raised my hands, palm up. The fantasy was over. I was startled as she instead grasped my hand in one of hers. "Ryan, you're the one in danger." After that, the door burst open. A loud crack splintered the air as a crossbow bolt was fired and lodged into my chest. I screamed, and it narrowly missed my heart and it burned. Over the tears in my eyes, I zeroed in on the figure behind the crossbow sights. It was the train attendant. With a mad gleam in his eye, he started cranking the crossbow back with another bolt. He cried, "I finally found you, vampire!" Vampire? I thought groggily. My wolfman transformation began quickly as I lost blood. Fur sprouted on my face and my snout snapped forward over sharp jaws. I stumbled toward the monster hunter, trying to shield Eva. With a hiss and supernatural strength, Eva yanked the bolt out of my chest. Turning to the crazed monster hunter, Eva ripped the crossbow away from him, dragging him into the compartment, pinning him high against the wall. Fangs slid out of her mouth as she grasped him. Eva was the vampire. We were both monsters on the run. We weren't hurting anyone. You and those like you hunt us for what? Because of trumped-up stories and stupid, bloodthirsty myths? Now you're ours. Over the mountains and beneath the starry moonlit sky, the train sounds muffled the real monster's screams of agony. We pulled his heart out and feasted on him for dinner, bones and all, until there was nothing left. We arrived at our destination hand in hand and agreed, from now on, better together than alone.
Thanks so much for listening. Like and share if this video gave you the chills. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications. See you next time.